going to talk to us about mysteries at the museum.
Thank you. It'll take just a second to get things going here. Hopefully this hasn't turned itself completely off in the process, but it may have. So we, of course, with the things happening at the diner, right? Jess is going to do the cooking issue now. I think so, right?
Definitely.
And it sounded that she was really quite excited about this as well. Sorry, Ken, if I'm moving all your stuff here, but I need a little bit of space. And this thing has managed to turn itself off on me, which is just an unfortunate reality that happens from time to time. Let's see what happens here. I'm trying to get this back. Up and running. Got it. Here we go. Okay. I think we might need to dim some lights here a little bit. Hopefully there'll still be enough light for me to be able to...
How's that going?
How's that? Is that okay? All right. So, thank you very much for coming. How many people, I mean, this talk, by the way, is modeled after a TV program. I should probably give them credit. Don't have the skills of Don Wildman, nor do I have the resources of the Travel Channel. But for those of you who watch those, you'll probably recognize some of the approach. So, the Northboro Historical Society Museum on Main Street in Northboro, Mass. was established to support the Society's mission of preserving and protecting the history of the town. Here you'll find artifacts related to the daily life of families, a collection of antique medical equipment, military memorabilia, and collections pertaining to the town's musical and artistic history. A set of objects of unusual construction and weight are stored on the first floor, where they're seldom noticed by visitors. Curator Ellen Racine will describe.
The objects are made of black slate, 15 inches wide, 29 inches high, 1.5 inches thick, inscribed with names and dates. The top portions have been damaged.
These are obviously gravestones, but why are they here? On a Sunday in April of 1826, Samuel Wood and Elizabeth Bowman married in Northboro. His father, Abraham Wood, had served as a Northboro Minuteman, and with his uncle, Captain Samuel Wood. Unfortunately, both had passed years prior, as had the groom's brother, Abraham, a noted music composer of the time. We don't know who attended, but we do know that weddings were much more subdued than those of today. The couple's first child, born in 1828, was given the name Abraham, likely in honor of his grandfather and uncle. A second son, named Samuel, after his father, was born in February 1831. The family must have been overjoyed at the birth of their second son. Then grief struck when first son Abraham died just months later in June of 1831. His gravestone is one of those in our possession. Things improved for the Wood family with the welcoming of son Albert in 1833. At about that time, Samuel was building the initial brick mill for the Northboro Cotton Manufacturing Company and 3 accompanying brick houses at the site that later held the Chapin Mill. While the mill is gone, you can still see the 3 houses on Chapin Court. The family lived in one of these houses when Albert was born. Next came the birth of Charles Johnson in 1838, and then daughters Lydia Ann in 1844 and Emma Elizabeth in March of 1848. Childhood deaths were not uncommon in those days. Sanitary practices and medical knowledge were such that you were as likely to die at age 8 as at 80. And when you think about children, they'd be out playing, they'd see a stream, they'd get thirsty, they'd just drink from the stream. They wouldn't ever think about, what animals or farms were upstream, putting pollution into there or whatever. Lydia Ann became another loss for the family, passing of dysentery in September 1848 at age 4. For a second time, the couple went from joy to sadness with the birth of one child and the death of another within months of each other. Lydia Ann was buried next to her brother Abraham, and hers is the other slate headstone in our care. That those stones are not still in Howard Street Cemetery is due to another sad event. In April 1851, Emma Elizabeth, the Wood's youngest child, died of inflammation of the lungs at age 3. As far as we can tell, a separate stone was never created for Emma Elizabeth. Rather, a large monument dedicated to the children of Samuel and Elizabeth Wood was erected and supplemented with small footstone markers with the initials AW, EEW, and LAW. At their deaths, the parents were laid to rest beside the children with their own small footstone markers and their names added to the side of the monument. A reasonable assumption is that the older, simpler stones were removed for the new structure, placed in storage, and sometime much later uncovered and brought to the Historical Society circa 1980 by someone who didn't know how to handle them and may not have known the historian. At some point, we may learn the detailed journey of these stones took to get here, but until then, they tell a story of human tragedy to which we can relate over a century and a half later. So that's something of that one. Should be noted as a footnote that the surviving sons did pretty well. Albert became a well-known doctor in Worcester and a surgeon in the Civil War. Charles Johnson was a jeweler and a watchmaker. He moved to Hartford, where he married and started his own family. And Samuel remained in Northboro, working at the Northboro National Bank. At one point, he was their vice president, and he was also a town selectman. So, something and I did find where they're located. Thankfully, the folks over at Town Hall helped me dig this out because it was not easy to find them. Another signed baseball. The section of the museum honoring Northboro's sporting past highlights a native son who is known across the country as much for his personality as for his extraordinary physical abilities. One object in particular is central to the display.
The object is a professional baseball jersey, size 42, made of polyester and manufactured by Wilson. The front is emblazoned with the Detroit Tigers logo, a letter D in Old English style. It has the number and name of Fidrich across the back. Also on the back is a signature of someone other than the owner.
Looking a bit closer, it's clear that the signature is of another baseball great, Greg Nettles, who's known primarily as a longtime third baseman for the New York Yankees. So how did his signature get here? And what was the signer's relationship to the jersey wearer? It's June 28, 1976 at Tiger Stadium in Detroit, Michigan. The stadium is packed as 47,855 fans wait for young Mark Fidrich to take the mound. Rookie Fidrich has the city in a rolling boil of excitement over baseball. He has 7 wins against 1 loss and has pitched 7 complete games. That alone would be enough to energize the city following 2 years with losing seasons. But Fidrich adds a personality and style that makes fans love him even more and leaves many professionals scratching their heads. Tall and with a mop of curly hair, he is referred to as the Bird, after Big Bird on Sesame Street. As he prepares to challenge the highly vaunted New York Yankees in a nationally televised Monday night game, Mark goes through his usual routine. Down on his hands and knees, he grooms the mound, filling in divots so he can create his own landing spot. As the game progresses, he's constantly chattering. The TV announcers say that he's talking to the ball. Actually, Mark is doing what he's done since Little League, talking to himself, reminding himself of what he needs to do, and keeping his head in the game. Come on, Mark, settle down, settle down. Keep the ball low, keep it low. You need a strike here. This is somewhat distracting to the opposition, but the fans love it. And it's genuine. The product of small-town Northboro, he's thrilled to be here, but he has no airs. He isn't intimidated by being in the big leagues or the players he faces. Some of that is perhaps because for Fid, as he's known to his friends, it's just baseball. He admits that he's never followed baseball as a fan. While others were reading Sports Illustrated and learning player stats, Mark was out playing day in and day out, learning and improving his game. He and his friends loved baseball so much that they constructed their own field in their Northgate neighborhood so they could play anytime they wanted. This is Mark's first time facing the Yankees. The first batter he faces in the second inning is Greg Nettles, whose major league career began 9 years prior. While he did have his lighthearted moments, Nettles was a serious guy and likely a bit displeased with Mark's chat. Baseball historian Bill James relates that hearing Fidrich talking to the ball, Nettles stepped out of the box and began a conversation with his bat. When it comes down here, you hit it right up in that upper deck up there. Nettles then popped out. At that point he said, "Damn, I just realized I was using a Japanese bat. It doesn't understand a word of English." I can't confirm the words, but if you watch the video, you will see Nettles step out of the box and say something while he's pointing at his bat. We have a copy of that section of the game up in the museum. You can view it there. You can also view this on YouTube, by the way. That whole game is on YouTube. It's pretty interesting to watch. Actually, Nettles batted pretty well against Fidrich. He got 2 hits during that game. Maybe the first game left both players with an appreciation of each other's skills. But there's no direct link to the jersey signing, and there would likely have been no opportunity or inclination for the players to carry that out during the season. This is Nettles at bat, by the way. Both Nettles and Fidrich had all-star experience. Mark was the starting American League pitcher in 1976. Nettles was selected as an all-star in 1975 and again in 1977. While Mark was also invited to the 1977 squad, he declined due to injury. The players would never have been on the same team, so that eliminates another opportunity for the signing that had taken place. It's more likely that the event happened outside of the baseball season. Both players would have been frequently invited to card shows and other events for signing cards and memorabilia. Fidrich appreciated his fans, and he didn't turn away requests for signatures. It was something he enjoyed, and an opportunity to thank them for their support. There would have been ample opportunity for Mark and Greg to meet and chat at those shows. And you can see from Mark's view there, he loved signing. He'd sign anything, anywhere for anybody. There's another. I love this picture. You can see how excited and happy he was just meeting fans. Independent of the opportunity, what would have motivated Mark to encourage Nettle to sign his jersey, or Nettles to agree? Was it the memory of that first Yankee game? Possibly, but more likely it was just another situation of Mark being Mark, doing something that sounded like fun, and exhibiting his enjoyment of life and people unrestrained by outside opinions. Fidrich had a long history of caring about others and finding pleasure in life's circumstances. One telling story comes from his high school years. Doug Wilson writes, Diane Bonnell will never forget her first day at Algonquin. Rushing into a class wearing the short skirt and sandals of the time, she tripped and slid into the front of the room. She was saved from embarrassment when a tall, curly-haired kid in the front row jumped up, spread his arms wide with palms facing down to the ground and yelled, "Safe!" As you can imagine, Mark was always in demand for baseball events, especially those in Northboro. He gave freely of his time. I personally remember a talk that Mark gave at my son's youth baseball end-of-season celebration. With no prepared notes or agenda, Mark casually talked about baseball and his experiences. At one point, he mentioned meeting another professional player, who I now assume was Greg Nettles. I don't recall if he mentioned the location, but he had his jersey with him, so it may have been a card show. Mark called over to him, "Hey, come here and sign my jersey," to which he got the astonished reply, "You want me to sign your jersey?" Mark answered, "Yeah, why not?" According to the story, the other player had something else that he had to do first, but he did come back and sign. I'd completely forgotten the story until I saw the jersey with Nettle's signature on it in our museum. I hope someday to confirm my recollection. And by the way, this is still open, work in progress a bit, so we're still trying to find more on this. And you know, Jess and Ann